video is obviously something we've talked about at LT for a long time now, and there's lots of different approaches, and that's what we're going to kind of explore today. So we've got two different case studies from two different organisations that have used quite different approaches to video. One thing that I think is quite interesting is that they actually both have used or would like to use the opposite approach, but it's all down to kind of subject matter and context. So that's something that they'll explore. And the other thing that they have in common is that they've both really created their own processes for video, for corporate video, and really seeing the benefits of kind of being quite daring and quite bold. And so hopefully you can take that away and take some practical tips as well as that confidence to try something new. So our first speaker is Ian Slater, whose degree in industrial engineering has led to a career in which he says he challenges the status quo and drives an efficiency culture, which I think is probably something a lot of us can relate to. He's now technical training manager at GE Oil and Gas, and is going to tell us all about a project he's been working on recently with video and some great benefits. Over to you.
Great, yeah. Thank you to everyone who's come out. You're officially the largest audience who's ever chosen to come see me speak about anything, really. In most environments, it's just, you know how training goes, right? I think everyone here knows well how training goes. So what I want to speak about today is our journey through user-generated content. And I want to be very specific about the type of organization we are. We are a pipeline inspection branch, largely, that do this. And it's very, very technical, hands-on, transactional type work. So you're doing lots of on-the-job kind of things. And it's not the same as a much more sort of soft skills type training. So I understand that's very much a different topic. So we got into this because we had some really serious issues. A couple of years ago, we found out that we have a very old workforce. And they're spread out all over the world. And our people didn't have great procedures. We're an ISO type business, but a lot of our procedures were completely out of date. And we didn't really have training material that was in sync with those procedures. So there was really no reliable way to find out what you needed to know how to do these incredibly technical tasks, which is truly horrifying. So we got right into, we had a dream, really, on how to fix this. We thought, aha, we'll harness the power that is out there in our user base. And we'll get our senior technical guys to go and make their own content, which is, you know, it's fast. It's way faster than getting procedures written and published internally and through all the reviews. It's global, and if you watch movies, you can really get engaged and see what's happening, so it can kind of go across language. So this is fantastic, and we were really, really excited about it. But then reality kind of set in, and we got going with it. There's some things that, and I want to really use this session, because you're interested in the same things I am, to stimulate some really good discussion at the end of this and get some good questions, because I'm really hoping that out there are people who are smarter than I am who have the answers to some of these challenges. One of them is production cost. Production cost is a real issue when you're making user-generated video. We have some ways to minimize, but ultimately it's kind of a challenge. Getting people engaged in doing it. We've tried some things, got some good ideas of how to do it, but there's still some issues. Delivering it, I think we've got that figured out, and we'll talk about that. Making sure it's compliant, this is lots of fun. This is really a lot of fun. We'll talk about that a bit too. And then content quality, which is something that is open to interpretation, and that is something of a challenge. So what we did is, when we first got into this, and with our huge amount of enthusiasm, is we gave our guys cameras and we said, go make us video. So, in the summer of 2015, a group of our technicians were left in our facility with GoPros. We got the footage back. This is what we got.
James. Hello, Mr. Chumley Warner. Do you realize that this is a very high water content line?
No, I didn't. I'm surprised you're going to build it.
The tool needs waterproofing. I have the final build list here. You must waterproof the tool.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you.
So, yeah, I know, right? And this is the only G-rated one we have. I wish I could show you the highlight reel. It is truly fantastic, but it is not what we wanted. So we're, how do I go to the next one? So how do we get compliant material out of this? So we sort of fine-tuned how we go about this to make sure that we get better at what we want. So the first thing we did, aside from all of this prioritization stuff, is we generated the wish list. So we took all of our content and our training and what we had, and we modularized the whole thing into bite-sized bits. And we made this enormous list of like 450 pieces of content, which is truly astonishing, and an unending supply of work and permanent employment for me in the Northeast, which is challenging. But then how do we prioritize it? So we got into thinking about this in terms of risk and our customer. And we came up with a prioritization matrix that's really based on quality concerns. These are issues where we have a process that's at risk and people continually do it in possibly dodgy ways. We have procedures that are missing. If we don't have a procedure, that's a really high up on our content production schedule. And then areas where we really can improve the process, because we'll talk about in a bit, optimization is a really great thing you can get out of user-generated video. So those things came into a prioritization matrix, and we post that up. The next bit is my most boring slide, the compliance review that the content has to go through. So when we get something back, it goes through an engineering review. And that's, is it correct, current, and clear? The 3 C's of making sure it passes review. And this is a quick review. It just goes to the guy who is in charge of that area, or the girl who's in charge of that area. They review it and make sure it's good. And if it's good, it goes over to the safety people. And this is something that our pass rate on safety compliant material is probably about 15%. 15%. And even under the best case, someone will do absolutely everything right. Safety glasses on, desk set up properly, and then someone will walk in the background without safety glasses on, and the whole thing is destroyed. So huge dropout for safety concerns. And then lean, right? We take a look at these processes, and this is, we'll talk about later on. When you capture user-generated video, you don't capture the process that you think you have. You capture the process that you really have. And that's absolute magic from a business process optimization standpoint. So anyway, we do that. This is a real rough cutout of our process. Basically, we have big schedule boards that come up in the morning. Our people come in, they take a look at the board, they see what they have to work on that day, they pull up our wish list, and they see if what they need to do is on that wish list. If it is, great, they get the camera equipment, they go over, and they film their job as they talk about it. So they just do their work, filming as they talk. When they're done, they hand in the video, we review it. If it passes all of that, print. It goes to production, which we'll talk about as a problem, and print. If it isn't good, this is fantastic, because now we have documented proof of something we need to talk to somebody about, and we know who to talk to about it. So we get some real benefits out of this, actually, really, really great benefits. We're able to produce content with absolutely no impact to day-to-day operations. There's no cost impact from this at all. People do this while they're doing their job. It's great. Filming is productive time, and in our world, it's project-based, it's billable work. So we've taken the production of training material from a situation where it's purely overhead, and we've transitioned it into something that's actually billable. And we've done one better than that, we'll talk about later. Again, we're getting really good insight, too, into the process we really have, not the process we think we have. Moving on, how do we keep our costs down? Because, all right, so once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, we made Star Wars. So the first video we made was all about Star Wars. It was like massive production costs. We had multiple cameras, we had setting, we had lighting, and we filmed something doing something really boring. And then we did lots of color grading, and it took us weeks and weeks, and then when we got it, we looked at it and we went, yeah, you know. So we don't want to do that anymore. We've lowered our expectations, and we lowered our requirements. So it turns out that the people who consume this type of video don't really care about the quality per se of the material. Now, they care about the process, they care about comprehensibility, but the fact that we have the very finest lighting in all of existence doesn't impact what they do one bit, especially since our guys are consuming this stuff on an iPod or an iPhone in the middle of the Louisiana swamps, literally doing this. So our tenets of production are about stripping it back to the bare essentials. So I'll give you a couple of examples. I know these are not exactly perfect examples, but we'll play a little game. It's called Raise Your Hand When You Learn Something. And just as a little bit of foreshadow on this, I won't let it go too long. So if we can cue video 1, taking you way back to 1990.
see
All
you come
right,
in.
we're good. Nobody raised their hand, and that is the correct answer. Yeah. So this would go on literally for 7 minutes until the first piece of learning comes out. I mean, to me, this represents the very worst form of corporate learning content. This is not what we're trying to do. And anyone who wants to argue that this is behavioral-based stuff, we can take that offline. So let's go into the next video. Oh, right, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so yeah, we know what you need to do, right? You get this stuff. This is great, right? Oh, where do we go? We go to Lowe's, because they have all that stuff. B&Q here. Plumbing department. This is really informative. This is super efficient, right? They allow you to pause and set it up so you can actually get what you want out of it. They tell you exactly the parts that you need to do the job. I think that's good. I think we get the, yeah, cut. Anyway, it's super efficient. It's super to the point. It's clear, and the production value is really, really low. So when you're making the kind of stuff we're trying to do, technical training, content delivery, and effectively operations support, that's the magic. We do not want that, because if you put that on in front of any of our somewhat quasi-unionized workforce, they will come and kill us. So don't do that. So we'll focus on content. Another example of why this is important. We have two movies that, well, I'll admit that I actually kind of like both of them, but anyway, so I have poor taste. So the first movie here we have is Van Helsing. $160 million to make. Really, really high production cost, really, really invested in graphics and experience and all of that, but from Rotten Tomato review, 23%. So ultimately a critical audience didn't like it. They declared it to be effectively a mess. We have another movie, Halloween. Halloween, anyone like Halloween? It's a classic, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, so really low cost, right? This is made for almost nothing. There's no real production. It's all just shot and produced and up. Really efficient, and it was all about the writing, and it's all about setting the stage. So this is a great example of how you don't need a lot of money to make really effective content that people can absorb, right? So the mantra, good enough is good enough, which is also sort of tied to the other mantra, which is, can my mom watch it and make this happen? And my mom actually is kind of technically savvy, but anyway. So the whole acid test to this is, can a person without prior knowledge of the process consistently deliver the results by following the demonstration in the video? If the answer to that is yes, that is good enough, print. How do you get people to do this? Okay, so this is a tricky one. I really want people to think about this because I view this as really a double-edged sword. Engagement is difficult. You may or may not want loads of engagement. First of all, a really important thing to get engagement is you have to tell people exactly what you want them to do, and you have to teach them how to do it. When we gave people camera equipment, we got really mixed results. You have to tell them how to use the camera. A lot of footage we get back is, like a picture of a wall, or it's a picture aimed at someone's face, and the thing that they're doing is actually down there. So it's just some instruction that we need to do, otherwise people won't make what you want, and you won't get people engaged in doing it. We introduced a reward program, which we thought was great. We were going to put out 20 pounds to anyone who makes a video. And, we got a bunch of videos, but they weren't necessarily what you really want. It's sort of the gamification thing, right, where you have people who really love to make money, and not people who really love to make what you want them to make. So then there was a quality review thing and added in to make that a bit better. And honestly, to cut through all of this, what really works for us on this is we've stumbled upon that if you have a couple of key individuals in different areas who are technically competent, who know how to use the equipment, and have some leadership skills, they're the people you want to have make your videos. They will help guide other people, they'll pull in others as you need, and you'll get consistency out of it. Because if everyone's making your movies, you're getting like everything from what my kids would make on a Sunday to, I don't know, to Star Wars, really. You have people who tied up all day in a factory, setting up lighting and whatnot. So if you pick a couple of people who are really good in different locations, and you have them trained, and you get consistency, and you get what you want. Production tools. Okay, I'll just go quickly through this. I mean, I'm sure people here know how to do this stuff, but what we did on the hardware side. So what really works for us is a couple of different scenarios. GoPros are awesome because we do pipeline inspection, so it's a really messy, gross, outdoor, explosive, blah, blah, blah business. GoPros are pretty good with that. But more than anything else, GoPros are great because they're small and they have a really wide angle lens. So if you're focusing on somebody who is doing something on a bench, you can put the thing about that far away from what you're working on and get the whole thing in the picture. And they shoot at high quality. And as long as you shoot at high quality, you're able to zoom in and zoom out in After Effects. So it's fantastic. It's not the perfect thing if you're going to interview somebody or something like that. They're just not very good with that. You'd need like an SLR. But mostly it's GoPro stuff. And you need to store it. You need a lot of storage locally to work with this. Software. So we have tried, we're GE, we're cheap. So we have attempted to do this for as low cost as possible, and we've plumbed the depths of low cost video production tools, and I'm open to anything else anyone can suggest to make this cheaper. So very basic, you could use the GoPro software on its own. You could use Windows Movie Maker, which is surprisingly quite good and free. If you want to do one better, you can get Adobe Premiere, you can get Power Director. If you have Macs, there's good options there. Screen recorder. So another thing we do is lots of training around Oracle and how to do business systems and whatnot. We stumbled upon, we used to use Captivate, which is, sorry to anyone from Adobe here, but I'm not a really big fan. It's really not, it's much more than you need to do this effectively. So we found Fastone Screen Capture. Fastone Screen Capture. It is 20 Canadian dollars. I'm Canadian, so it's a plug. And it records your screen, it records your audio, it does screen captures, and it allows you to do some editing after the fact. The thing is fantastic. And then you need a bin of titles that you can create that let people use it. And then lastly, you need some cloud stuff. Because we're a global business, we really rely on the cloud to do this. And we have a really horrible corporate tool set that's just getting better, but we use Box now, which is great. You can use Dropbox, fantastic for this. And you need a system for delivering the content. Segwaying. So video is a really big problem to get out to people. So we tried doing this with, like we have a corporate folders system where you could load stuff into the corporate folders and then people could get it technically everywhere. But it doesn't stream and there's a massive cost to using folders and it's slow. So that didn't really work. The biggest problem is that video is really, really big. And your produced video, even though it's kind of cut rate if you're doing it the way we are, is still really, really big. And then you've got to preserve all of your extra content and all the stuff that you shot when you put the video together somewhere. So that can get expensive. But like a large size content management structure in something like Box can really go a long way to help you back the stuff up and make it globally accessible. The other issue you got is just, this is a fundamental problem too I want to put out to people, is how you have compliance material, ISO documentation, and then you have training material, and the two have to stay synchronized. And it's a really big challenge to make sure they stay synchronized because they're not always the same document. So we took a look at lots of ways to do this, and we really settled on an LMS to get the job done. And I don't know of a better way to distribute video content in a way that's really cost effective and allows for all these different social aspects to kind of come in and you can collect information. But we tried lots of different things. We tried YouTube, we tried GETube, which is like YouTube, but not as user-friendly. So that was tricky. So why the LMS? So the cool thing is with the LMS is we can do like dynamic linking between our video content and our procedures. And you can see here's a page from our LMS, which is Totara, and we're quite happy with it. So we have our procedure links, we have video content, and you can have different panels of video content as you go down, and the guys can see what's in the video before they start it. And we have some process maps and whatnot. So this is all very much learning, training, and technical aids all on one page, and it's all linked together. So if we get audited, you can go to a person and you say, are you competent at what you're doing? The person can go to the system and say, I'm ticked off that I am in the LMS, and the auditor can watch the video to see if the guy is doing it in accordance with the video, and we can go to the procedure. So it's all tied together with a bow on it, and we think that is magical. So you can get some extra value out of this. Anyone know what movie this is from? Anyone? Yeah, I heard it, Children of the Corn. Nice. So we did some really cool things around spaghetti diagrams. You know, if you want to walk your facility to see how efficient things are going, put a camera on somebody's head and you have them do their job, you can tell how much waste is in the job. You can tell exactly timed how long it is. And you can put it into a room in front of a whole bunch of different people. And you can critique it and talk about it, and you can compare it through the evolution of the process. So that's really good. There's lots of different, like waste walks are another great one. You can video, just take a walk through your facility and video everything around you with a wide angle lens. Then have people play games like spot the unsafe things in this video. What can you clean up? Where did someone leave tape on the floor? And then best practice sharing. This is huge for us. As we have people in Malaysia and China and the Middle East and Canada and the United States and Germany, and everybody kind of does things differently. When you watch a video, you know what's going on. A procedure can get kind of vague, whereas the video is the video. And if you don't like it, you can comment directly on it. It's a magical tool for best practice sharing. And then engineering review. We're doing this too now, where we built something called a variable bypass. It looks like a missile nose cone. It's really, really cool. So we videoed the entire assembly of the thing, and it's like different pieces that slot in, and there's a cone that drops, and it took us 2 days to build it. And the last thing you do on it is you pour oil into it. And we poured the oil into it, and all the oil went all over the floor. And it's not supposed to do that. So the great thing was we were able to scan back through the video to see what exactly happened to cause the problem, and found out that there's a little gasket, like a rolling gasket, that got kinked in the assembly. So we were able to take the thing partially apart without tearing the whole thing apart to find out what happened. So there's lots and lots of extra value you can mine out of video, even if you're just getting rough video. So we had some success with this. Like, it's been great for us. So we cut our training base cost by 60%. We were able to reduce the number of trainers we have, and we cut our travel cost immensely. We had about 100,000 pound travel cost for 2 people, and people would fly all over the world to demonstrate things. We've cut that back. We do this a different way. It's not all video, but we've cut that in half. We created, now it's about 60 courses in 6 months that are useful, vetted, and captured. We're actually selling this now. So we have a number of lease partners in Malaysia and China who we count on to do work for us. We now sell them a subscription to our service. They have access to our videos, our training, and we capture their certifications and our information in our LMS, and we charge them for that service. So the entire package here is actually net profitable for us now. So training has been converted from a source of financial burden into a profit maker. If only just a little bit, but we have some plans to make that better. And we get a lot better dialogue between engineering and operations. And I'll show you next here a video we made.
Ready. New
Just an excerpt.
Slightly greased. And the torque wrench with the Allen key on the end of this.
The Geordie thing we kind of worked on a bit.
So remove the merchant pipe. This bit you want to do as quick as possible so you don't lose all the nitrogen. You're going to lose some.
All right, that's it for that.
In nature.
So the guy who's doing this actually is the tech expert on that, and he did the entire thing himself. So it cost us effectively nothing to make, and it's a really great example of the kind of content that we find very useful. So that's all I have, and I would very much welcome your comments and questions and whatnot later in the program. Thank you.